Oh, welcome back to Rebel Force Radio's Mandalorian After Show, and what a long year it's been. Almost a year of waiting for the second season of Mandalorian. Thank goodness, with all the chaos and the madness that has ensued in a galaxy not so far away, our own galaxy, that the Mandalorian, as the Force would have it, was its production was relatively undisturbed by everything that rocked not just the entertainment business, but all businesses. But luckily, we didn't have to suffer any longer wait than we might have for this incredible return of the first live-action Star Wars television series ever. And boy, oh boy, they did not disappoint with Season 2's premiere. By the way, missing nothing, or not, went right into Chapter 9. I don't know if you noticed that, but it wasn't like Season 2, Chapter 1, like we were pre-promoting. They went right into Chapter 9. And, boy, I hope they don't hit Chapter 11, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to be here all night, folks, including my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Wow. The humor is bankrupt here on the show this week. But, no, Jason, that was a good try. That was a nice
thank
try.
you. Thank you.
Nice try. Nothing to laugh about when you talk about the season premiere of The Mandalorian, though. This was a mind-shattering episode, in my opinion. You got everything. You got everything you could possibly want. And we have everything we could possibly want on this show this week. We're going to be talking all about the season premiere of The Mandalorian, Chapter 9, The Marshal. Spoiler heavy. So you've been warned. If you haven't seen the episode...
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
You heard it. That's the first and only time we're going to play that here on Mandalorian After Show for Season 2. You have been warned.
Yes, you have been warned. We'll be breaking down the episode. Jason will be moderating the conversation in a typical roundtable style. And you have to have more than one person sitting at the table with you when you do a roundtable discussion. We got myself, we got Jason, but we have a special guest this week, Jason.
We sure do. We have a real honest-to-goodness cast member from The Mandalorian, Gekko himself, Mr. Dominic Pace, joining us. Dominic, welcome back to Rebel Force Radio.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me, and a genuine thank you to the entire Star Wars community for this year. I can't tell you how grateful I am for all of you.
Well, Dominic, last time we spoke to you, you were about to embark on a national tour to help small businesses, in this case, local comic book shops, by creating a bit of a splash by you being there, signing autographs, hot off the Mandalorian. And I don't think that we've really had much of a chance to catch up with you since. I know that you met up with Jimmy Mack at an event in Chicago, but I think you felt quite a bit of love as you traveled the country.
I can't tell you how grateful I am, not only the Star Wars community, but also the charitable organizations, the 501st Legion, Rebel Legion, Sith Dynasty, the Mandalorian Mercs. They all came out. I managed to raise over $25,000 for 41 different comic book stores over the course of 5 months. We were safe. We were not irresponsible. At the same time, we were able to raise money for Make-A-Wish Foundation, $2,000, as well as the Peter Mayhew Foundation, $1,000, and the Aflac Cancer Research, over $600 there. So I just can't tell you how grateful I am. Again, under 1 minute screen time, but the Star Wars fan base, as much as we talk about sometimes the toxicity, everyone was just so incredibly supportive, and I just can't tell you how grateful I am and humbled. I wouldn't have been able to get through this year with the entire film industry and television industry shut down without the support of everybody as well. So thank you so much. I can't say it enough.
Well, that's awesome. We're so glad that you were so warmly welcomed. You know, here's one thing I'll say about the Star Wars community. You do read a lot online about toxicity, but I think that's the only place where it actually exists is online, because every time I'm at a convention or I'm at a film premiere or I'm anywhere, I run into the best high-quality people everywhere. So, don't believe everything you read. But we are not here to talk about toxicity in Star Wars. We are here to talk about The Mandalorian in Star Wars. And oh my gosh, as Jimmy Mack said, I mean, what a jam-packed episode. Everything from crate dragons to Jawas to sandcrawlers to Tusken Raiders. I mean, this episode had it all. And I can't wait to break it all down for you. By the way, we'll give you the tail of the tape. We're talking about Chapter 9 of the Mandalorian series, the kickoff for Season 2, The Marshal, written and directed by showrunner and co-creator Jon Favreau, originally airing on Disney Plus, of course, October 30th, 2020. Happy Halloween, by the way, for those of you listening to this right now. And brought back some familiar faces. We're going to break it all down as we get into it. But, Jim, I know you've just been busting at the seams. I got to ask, did you stay up into the wee small hours and catch it when it first dropped, or did you see it at a more reasonable human hour? When did you first catch Chapter 9?
No, I woke up like a normal human being and watched it this morning. I did not stay up late night last night. I needed all my energy for today and this recap. So I didn't want to do that this time around, although I felt bad when I went to bed last night. I will say that.
What, you had guilt?
I did feel a little Star Wars fan guilt that I was sleeping on the job. But no, I was very happy to watch it this morning, fresh with a cup of coffee, and really take it in. It was very exciting. What a way to kick off my day. Kick off my day on such a high. I saw things in this episode I only just merely imagined as a Star Wars fan. And other things that blew my imagination out of the water in sheer size and scope and scale. And I was really impressed by the Easter eggs that were sprinkled throughout this episode. I like the callbacks to classic Star Wars moments we found throughout this episode. And I love the Banthas. We saw Banthas as we've never seen them before.
Banthas galore in this. We even saw a Bantha getting his teeth brushed, for crying out loud. If you didn't think you saw enough Bantha. But Dominic, I got to ask you, for somebody who has actually been there, been on the set, I know you're a great big Star Wars fan. I know that you're obviously a fan of this show, but when you see something as exciting as a season premiere like this, I mean, is there a part of you that goes, man, I wish I was back there in front of that volume. I wish I was back there playing Gekko. Or are you able to just to enjoy it as a fan?
Just truly be able to enjoy it as a fan. Look, I mean, the cup is half full. We may have some good news coming up soon, Gekko related, but at the end of the day, you know, it's sort of this Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I come from the Italian culture where it's all about sharing the love. And my biggest hope is for more Star Wars fans, diehard Star Wars fans, to get an opportunity. So when I was seeing some of the crowd during that fight at the beginning, or you were seeing some of the people gathering around, my hope was that they were actually diehard fans just like us, as opposed to wishing Gekko would be back in one way or another. This year has been beyond words, and I can't tell you how grateful I am personally. But at the same time, the greatest joy that I can have right now is for true Star Wars fans to be part of that universe so that they can feel the same joy, as well as those 500 first members. I can't tell you how much all the charitable organizations do within the Star Wars community, how much time they take with the children, people in need, for them to have that dream as well. A 1 minute screen time. So I enjoyed it thoroughly with my two boys this morning, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Awesome. You know, the one thing that I could kick myself, I need to go back and watch it another 2 or 3 times. But as I was sitting here prepping for the show, the thought occurred to me, we're dealing with a crate dragon here, and we've got probably, next to Ben Burtt himself, the most knowledgeable when it comes to Star Wars sound effects and all the wizardry that goes on there. We saw a real-life crate dragon, and that crate dragon sound effect that we've heard over and over in A New Hope in various versions of it. So I just wanted to check in, Jim. The howl, did it sound like that could have been Obi-Wan over that mountain doing that himself?
Well, we know that the original crate dragon howl that old Ben emitted back in the 1977 version of Star Wars was taken from an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Well, it was actually from a production library from back in the 60s that movie studios all used. And this was the sound of a a dinosaur, I believe it was supposed to be. It was just something that was just picked randomly, sounded good at the time, and was placed into the original Star Wars. But George Lucas always wanted something a little more interesting, different, weird, exotic. So for the special editions, Ben, along with Matt Wood and David Acord, they made various revisions to the crate dragon sound that Obi-Wan Kenobi makes. One was sort of a whistle, and one was sort of a whistle growl. But nothing beat the original sound effect. And I don't care if it just came off the shelf in a production library that was heard in other movies. It was just a classic sound. And so I know I heard that classic sound being incorporated into this crate dragon. I definitely made note of hearing the classic from the original 1977 Star Wars. I did pick up on that. Knowing the guys the way I do, the way they produce this stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if every attempt at the crate dragon sound was included in the mix somehow.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had time to pick it all apart like I like to. But I will.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about it.
Oh, for sure. I was sitting here and I was thinking about the crate dragon and thinking about the skeleton that we saw on the dunes there, going back to the original, and then I thought, well, we actually heard a crate dragon before. So, but giving it flesh or scales or however you want to call it was just, I mean, it's such an amazing treat. I got to say, when I opened the show, it's hard not to gush because it is so much of what George Lucas, I think, was accomplishing with the original Star Wars, taking space and taking Western and taking monster movies. I mean, it was such an amalgam of things. And we've talked so much over the last decade and a half on this show about the chemical formula, the makeup, the alchemy of Star Wars. And it is all of those things. And some people put them all in a pot and stir it up and it doesn't taste quite right. But Favreau and Filoni, particularly with this episode, throw in the monsters and the Western and the Marshal and the monsters, everything together, it just tasted like Star Wars. Now, I thought it was great that they did a really good recap of season 1, and it streamlined a few things for me. What it solidified for me was that the Mandalorian's mission, and Jim, when we were doing the commentaries over the last 2 episodes, I don't think it was as crystal clear to me that the Mandalorian was, we knew that his charge, his what did he call it? He was missioned. I think that's the verb that he uses. I was missioned by my armorer to, or quested. I think it might have been quested. Was the verb that he used to take this child back to his species, and I'm going to use the network of Mandalorians, but first I got to find some Mandalorians. So that sort of crystallized finally to me that is his strategy of how he's going to track down the species of warriors, or no, I'm sorry, not warriors, of sorcerers, in order to reunite Baby Yoda. And it's kind of funny. He goes, his quest to track down a Mandalorian doesn't really lead him to a Mandalorian, at least not by the current definition. Were you surprised?
Well, yes and no. When I heard Tatooine, I figured it would end up having some sort of relation to Boba Fett, the Mandalorian that they find. And of course, we had heard the rumors too that said Timothy Olyphant would be coming back and he would be wearing the Boba Fett armor and helmet. And that turned out to be true, but it turned out he wasn't Boba Fett, that's for sure.
He looked like a little kid wearing that at first when I saw it. I'm like, is that... It seemed so big. You get a sense of how big Jeremy Bulloch was, what a larger man he was. I just thought that it looked in universe, don't get me wrong, but you immediately realize this is a much smaller person than Boba Fett.
You think so?
I thought so.
I believe that the helmet and the armor was fitting him a little snugly. I thought it was. I didn't. I saw that like the exact opposite as you did. I see Cobb Vanth is actually being taller than Boba Fett, and so you could even see how the chest portion kind of cut off mid torso almost. Like it wasn't long enough on him.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So yeah, I different. My perspective of it is different. But it didn't surprise me that he didn't find the Mandalorians, and I kind of like it that way because number one, that's going to be the quest for him throughout the season, is finding these other Mandalorians who might point him in the right direction to or help him find Yoda's species, right?
Right.
Okay. So if he found him right away, there's no fun in the season then. He has to have a few pitfalls and dead ends along the way. And so on top of it, also, you're addressing the big elephant in the room. And that's, where's Boba Fett? There's Mandalorians. Where's Boba Fett?
I think we see him at the end, right?
What's that?
I think we see him in the end.
Yes. And that has to be addressed because for years we had always heard Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit. And back in the days of the old expanded universe, that was confirmed. But now in this new era of Star Wars, where everything was reset in 2014, the fate of Boba Fett has been largely left unknown. And that needs to be addressed in a show called The Mandalorian. Also, I think we're dealing with elements from the Boba Fett standalone film that got canceled. I think we're starting to see story elements from that come into play in The Mandalorian Season 2.
Dominic, when you put a character in, well, let's say an actor in such an iconic costume as Boba Fett, they gotta measure up in some way. How do you think that Timothy Olyphant or the character Cobb Vanth how did he measure up as a character that was either fitting or unfitting to wear that armor?
I thought, I think there's something to be said about the fact that it should have looked slightly awkward because it is not, Boba himself. As far as performance-wise, I didn't think there was a false moment with Olyphant. The only thing I was a little bit in question with was going all in on the Western accent and sort of the bar and the saloon kind of feel. But ultimately, I thought Olyphant just brought it. And not to mention, to expand a little bit more with, the fan service of a kind of a Weequay-like bartender, along with the Tusken Raiders there to kind of humanize the Tusken Raiders. I thought that was a really interesting choice. I think for kids from the 80s, we sort of had this magical feel with watching this because we're so familiar with these characters for such a long time that it just has this amazing, rich feeling that when you finally start seeing some more of the world that we were so familiar with, that specifically for me with Weequay as well as the Tusken Raiders. But I thought that flowed smoothly. My only question was just in regards to going all in on kind of that Western feel. But ultimately, I thought Olyphant is a solid actor. He's had an amazing career as well.
Yeah, and he's just perfect for the Western with his experience in Deadwood.
Right.
He's just the right pick.
Yeah.
Well, I just kept thinking about Danny Cordray from The Office. That's because I didn't watch Deadwood, but it was. I thought that he, for a lot of times if you're a real, sometimes you can almost be too handsome, and he's a really handsome guy. I thought he fit the role really, really well. I mean, he had enough grizzle to him and everything. And I thought the chemistry between him and the Mandalorian was really strong. Considering how it started out pretty rocky, but they certainly parted friends.
And how cool was that pod race piece right there along with the speeder bike?
I thought I spied part of a pod race engine there that was retooled. I haven't gone online to look at, all of the Easter eggs and everything, but has anybody traced that particular paint job of that pod race part?
Yeah, it looked like Anakin's.
Okay, so it was Anakin's.
It did.
Perhaps.
Well, at least the fins that protrude out of it certainly seem to have the similar paint job as Anakin's. So, but the engine itself, I don't know. If you also notice very closely at the beginning, Pelimoto is working on a pod racer engine there in the docking bay. I didn't notice that. Mos Eisley. Yeah, you can only see part of it. But I mean, pod racers are essentially jet engines anyway.
Right.
Just tethered like a chariot. And I think that those jet engines have practical uses in the Star Wars universe as actual pieces on flying craft. And not just pod racers. Pod racers are like junk together, leftover parts from a spacecraft. That's what I believe.
Well,
I don't think you go and buy a pod racer,
right?
Unless someone made it. Those are things that are put together by the drivers themselves, based out of whatever material they have.
Right. It's always nice, that consistency. The other thing that I thought was pretty awesome was just their consistency now with bringing back comedians. John Leguizamo, I think opened up there. So, I mean, you have that, that was pretty prevalent during the
That was a surprise to me because the trailer, I thought for sure that was Jon Favreau. I had no idea how similar their voices were. I did not know that was Leguizamo, and I was very surprised.
And, of course, with Jon Favreau directing this episode, he and John Leguizamo did a movie several years ago called Chef. And that's probably where that connection comes into play.
Yeah, not to mention amazing amount of talent to do that kind of one-man show. The guy's so incredibly talented there. Not to mention also the Gamorrean Guards to see those battle axes in action for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, that was electrically charged, of course. No, that was great. And I've not the only one, but a lot of people have sort of made the connection between Mando being an almost Batman-like character and that whole, opening sequence when he opens the can on the goons there of Gor Koresh. It was so Dark Knight, and I loved it.
Someone in the chat said that it reminded them of the opening sequence to a Bond film. Where he goes and meets up with the guys and they're watching a fight. Of course, what's that movie where Bond goes to the sumo wrestling match? It reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah, Never Say Never, or not Never Say Never. You Only Live Twice.
You Only Live Twice. Yeah. I want to thank Bob and I want to thank Peter for their kind donations in the live chat happening right now on YouTube. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
I could be wrong, but did you guys notice that Indiana Jones reference, Temple of Doom, where he didn't want to have the water, and from the Tusken Raiders? I thought that was straight taken out directly from Temple of Doom, where Kate Capshaw did not want to accept the food.
You're offending them and embarrassing me. So
I thought it was Lucasfilm right there. I just thought it was a nod. I thought that was pretty.
Monkey brains.
Hey, Jim, you mentioned Peli. And as we were talking about Cobb Vanth and Timothy Olyphant's turn in Star Wars universe, Amy Sedaris' Peli, it was certainly not without some discussion amongst fans about whether or not her humor and her delivery was a little too real worldy. I think when you and I were watching the episode, we both kind of said, we really like her. We think she fits in nicely. How did you think? Did it feel like the same character to you? Was it like no time was lost? Nice to see. Were you glad to see her back?
Yeah, especially in this instance. First episode of the season. During this time, we've all grown to love Baby Yoda so much more. And then she sort of represents us as a fan base when she sees Baby Yoda. And she says, thank the Force. She's so happy to see him.
Thank the Force. And, that's a key line that I do want to talk about. And I hope some of our callers bring that up. But yes, sorry.
And so I just thought that was a lot of fun. She does kind of make a real world offer to him about buying him, and she goes, "Just kidding, not really." It's kind of that kind of patter is sort of a comedian's patter, I guess. But
right.
I just like the character, and I love just how she was revealing how much she knew about the Mandalorian. Hey, he doesn't like droids. Now you like droids. It was funny just to see that. It reflects how much the Mando has evolved since she's last seen him.
Yes. We're seeing some great character development. We know him as the guy that doesn't like droids. Now he's tolerant of droids, and he's I guess more friendly. He's more trusting, and I think it's great to see that. Well, and then you see him interacting with the Tuskens. Of course, he was the guy that was being kind of nasty with the Tuskens, and Queel had to be the one to say, you chill out. And to see him kind of come full circle like that and honoring what Queel taught him.
If I can correct you, he was nasty with the Jawas, not the Tuskens.
Oh, you're right. He did understand Tusken speak from the get-go, didn't he?
Yeah, in episode 5 of last season, he did reveal that he could communicate with the Tuskens. That's the first time we've ever seen a Star Wars character have a relationship with the Tuskens. I don't think Queel knew them, but he definitely revealed that in season 1. And now here in season 2, we're learning so much more about him. He spent considerable amount of Tatooine on Tatooine in his past. Yeah. He spent a considerable amount of time there. He not only can do sign language with the Tuskens, but he can actually speak Tusken. So what's up with him? How does he have this strange connection to the Tusken Raiders? Nobody on Tatooine has this connection.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't see anyone else communicating with the Tusken, certainly not in the way that the Mandalorian does. And thanks for the correction. See, I need to be more like, how I don't correct you?
Yeah.
And you always are busting my...
It's called devotion to accuracy. Why don't you stamp that on your forehead?
Stamp this on your forehead. All right. Thank you very much, Paul McDonald, for the super chat. Also,
I like Paul. Paul wrote a great book about.
Thank you to Eddie Baker too. Earlier we had him on there, so that's very kind of you guys. It is not certainly not expected, but it is appreciated. By the way, we are going to be taking your calls here in just a few moments. We'll be opening up the switchboard. The number to call is 708-866-1737. We already have a number of folks in the queue, but that number, if you'd like to talk about The Mandalorian, tell us what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like about Chapter 9, The Marshal, give us a call, 708-866-1737. Of course, if you're listening to this on delayed podcast, it's not, no one's going to answer. So, all right. Let's just kind of cut to, before we get into the callers. There's so much to unpack with this episode, but let's talk about what everyone's talking about, which is the reveal of Boba Fett at the end. As I was watching it with my family, it wasn't lost on them that it was Tem Morrison. It wasn't lost on them that Tem Morrison is the face of all the clones. He's also the face of all the Fetts. But they were still scratching their heads. They didn't know who that was. They had heard me talk about possibly Captain Rex showing up in this season. Is it Boba Fett? Isn't it Boba Fett? I think IMDb came along and just confirmed it for everybody and is listed as Boba Fett. But up until I saw that, I was still kind of guessing: is this an old clone? Is it Boba Fett? What about that scene? Dominic, sealed it for you that it was Boba Fett, or were you still guessing until you went on IMDb?
No, I mean, obviously, if it's Tamora Morrison, I think that would be too much misdirection if it was anyone other than Boba Fett. So it was great, and I couldn't be more happier. I remember, for me personally, seeing Aquaman, I thought that him and Nicole Kidman stole the show. So I honestly cannot wait to see how they're going to expand this story, and of course, how he lost his armor. That whole story as well, but also the relationship with the child as well. So, or Baby Yoda, as we're on Rebel Force Radio.
Well, yeah, always Baby Yoda. But I gotta throw that out there about the story. The story. Oh my gosh, Bob, crazy! Thank you so much, Bob. Really appreciate that. Very, very, very kind of you. The story about how Cobb Vanth acquired, I don't want to spread rumors, but the story about how he, and they did a whole flashback, which I loved. It was more than a story, more than a voiceover. It was actually showing the action of him on the Sandcrawler, being rescued by the Jawas, seeing the armor. But here's where I'm having a little bit of difficulty, and maybe you guys can help me out, is that how did Boba Fett just happen to be at the right spot? Now, I know some of this is drama and convenience of storytelling. How did Boba Fett happen to be at the right spot as the Mandalorian was taken off at the end of that episode on that speeder? Is it possible that wasn't the real story of how that armor was acquired by Cobb Vanth? And could this be somehow a way of Boba Fett luring a real honest-to-goodness Mandalorian or someone else there because he has ulterior motives? I don't know, but I just thought that even the way they shot it, and maybe we'll go back at the end of this season if this turns out to be bunk, this story, I thought this feels a little bit like a little bit too convenient, a little bit too perfect, this story. There was something that just smelled a little like BS to me. Did it strike you guys as that way at all?
No. Here's where my speculation led me upon seeing Boba Fett at the end of that episode. It looked like he was wearing Tusken Raider robes. So what if he actually fought in that battle? What if he was down there wearing Tusken Raider bandages and robes and fighting? What if he's been living amongst the Raiders for all these years?
Whoa.
For the last 3 or 4 years as a Tusken. That's what it looked like to me. And I really tried to freeze frame it when he turns toward the camera. You can see, I was looking for that little cylinder with the wires.
Right. Yeah.
The Raiders wear. And you could sort of see something that might resemble a wire when he turns real quickly, but I couldn't make out any of the tail. But he certainly had a gaffy stick.
Yep.
And he had a Tusken Raider rifle.
Yep.
And he was wearing that tattered cloak.
Yep.
He looked like a Tusken Raider to me.
Man, I did not think of that. That's a great theory. That's a much better theory than mine, to tell you the truth. But yeah, give yourself a gaffy stick raise there.
Tusken. Yeah, what do we call that? The Tusken salute when they raise the stick over their head and they do that.
No, that's a good. I really like that.
Dominic, do it with us. Come on, it's fun. It's fun.
That's right.
This is the new RFR workout routine.
It's not like a reverse. I feel like the original one, they did a reverse frame on that because you can feel
They did,
yes.
Like, yeah.
He toggled it to give him that little wiggle there. The editor did.
Yeah, it was like an Instagram feature there when he ended up doing that. But I mean, it still worked, of course.
Right here we are, all these years later.
What is that cylinder, by the way? Anyhow, what is the purpose of that?
You know, when I was a little kid, I thought it was a battery. I thought it was, but I think it's something to help keep them maybe cool. It's like a cooling unit of some sort. There must be an encyclopedia that actually defines what that is.
It's got to be in a visual guide. I always thought it was maybe the filter that filtered out some of the sand, part of their breathing apparatus.
That could be.
You know, like the Brita filter, you have to take it out and change it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's one of those little Klondike dogs that has the whiskey in there.
Cheers. All right. Well,
So I didn't really think of that. I thought it was just, again, I mean, just as much as it seemed, kind of too perfect, like you said, I didn't think anything else. But it's a great point in the fact that Boba's armor, I mean, why would he not have it? So maybe it is kind of a hook there they gave it to Olyphant. So that they can maybe find or hook Mandalorian in there so that they can, talk to him and obviously have their own motives as well.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and hit the phones. We've got Jason. I think Jason may be coming from D.C. Hello, Jason. You're on the air with Rebel Force Radio and the Mandalorian After Show. Hello.
This is Jay. This is the Jay.
The J.
The J.
I thought I was the J.
Not Jason, just Jay.
Oh, just Jay. All right, Jay from D.C. What's going on, man?
Oh, man, I'm so excited. You guys have touched on so many topics I already wanted to talk about.
That's
the
okay.
Vanthas, I'm just, my childhood sandbox dreams have come true.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Some of the wide sweeping, like the aerial shots of the single file was just gorgeous.
And how about the music at that moment?
The music was stunning.
What a great episode. And you're so right. It's a lot of the things that you always imagined when you were a kid with your action figures, and now we're actually seeing it come to life. And it's not a comic book. It's an actual live action Star Wars television show bringing us these mind-blowing, face-melting moments. Holy cow. When the episode was over, I felt like, gosh, I just felt like I needed and I don't smoke anymore, but I needed a cigarette. I really did. I felt like
totally.
I was exhausted and satisfied.
Well, that's the thing about this. Go ahead, Jay.
No, what were you going to say, Jason?
Whoa, you're the guest right now, so you go.
The one of the first scenes when they're walking towards the fight club, they see the graffiti, and I thought that was a moment where Baby Yoda looked at the camera, like when he saw the graffiti, and was like, "Bad feeling about this I have."
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah,
And was that Sabine's graffiti?
Well, it sure would make it a small universe if the only person who graffitied was Sabine. Though I do know some fans that think the whole concept of graffiti is a little too real world. But no, there was definitely a lot of graffiti there. It was definitely to symbolize that it's perhaps a seedy kind of place.
Yeah,
and
Sure.
And boy, did that Gore Koresh ended up with a pretty grisly fate as he was obviously being eaten by these stray dogs or whatever these creatures were that were roaming the alleyways of that planet. I don't think they ever say what that planet is, do they? Do we have any confirmation on what that is?
I've looked.
Because I know we thought that
don't.
maybe it was Coruscant at one point, and it was maybe the lower levels, but...
Nar Shaddaa is kind of what it looked like to me. Nar Shaddaa, which is sort of like Skid Row of Coruscant almost. The whole planet is just Skid Row. But maybe StarWars.com will release an episode guide that identifies that planet, I'm sure.
Well,
what do you think, Dominic? Does that look like a place Gekko the Bounty Hunter would be hanging out in?
Absolutely, wherever the money is. But I'm just also trying to think of where they left off on the last episode. I think, but they took off, didn't they? They flew, didn't they? At the end of 8.
He just left with Baby Yoda. He flew off with his jetpack, leaving behind Grief Karga and Cara Dune.
Yeah.
And then the last shot we saw was Moff Gideon coming out of the TIE fighter with the dark saber. So we don't really know exactly. It could still be Navarro. It could still be Navarro. Or that's my best guess. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay, very much. Appreciate the call. Let's check in here with, I believe this is Barbara. Barbara from Florida. Hello, Barbara. You're on the air.
Hey, guys. It's me, Mariana.
Oh, Mariana.
Hey, how are you?
Good. What'd you think of the episode?
So good to talk to you. Oh my gosh, I am mind blown right now because what happened was I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning because I had to go do a shift at the polls for campaigning. So I woke up super duper early and I watched it on. A friend of mine was kind enough to lend me his login, his password for his Disney Plus account.
Oh,
and
don't
so
admit that! Don't admit that, Mariana.
Why?
What?
Are the internet cops going to get her?
Who knows? Who knows who's listening to this? All right, so you borrowed the code.
Yeah. So I watched the episode and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so awesome!" And I was mind blown, and it has so many nostalgia throwbacks to the prequels and the originals. It was so cool.
Awesome.
It was cool.
What
It was cool. What was it? If there was a single throwback, what was that really jumped out at you and was your favorite?
I think it would have to have been definitely going back to Tatooine, seeing R5, and then the Tusken Raiders. It was just really amazing to see how so much details and so much nostalgia that John and Dave are bringing into the episode. I always love the little Easter eggs that they leave about.
Yeah, R5 was great. That was a really fun little moment. And, I can see some of the detractors on the internet probably saying that, oh, geez, what a coincidence. You got Boba Fett, you got R5-D4, what a small galaxy. Well, you know what? It was just fun, and it's cool for us as Star Wars fans to see that stuff. And it certainly didn't hurt anybody in the process. But I love that. And I like to think that those pit droids are the Molarian curly droids that we see in Watto's shop too.
God.
So what do you think about that?
Those pit
Haters?
droids were those pit droids were so funny. I love their little mischievous stuff and the little antics they get. And what I really loved also about this episode was to see how far the Mandalorian progressed himself, how much he really hated droids, and how he also couldn't take on the Mudhorn. Now he's literally diving into the mouth of a crate dragon and blowing the thing up from inside out. I'm like, this is character progression. This is it. This is awesome.
And he did take that thing down without the help of Baby Yoda. It was a straight pure kill for him. He took out that crate dragon quite handily. There are elements about the crate dragon that we've never seen before, like how it swims in the sand and swims underneath the sand. I don't think that was ever an element of the crate dragon that has been part of the mythology. But other things like the pearl inside the crate dragon is something that goes back to the old expanded universe, specifically, I think, debuting in the Tales from Jabba's Palace book. I'm not 100% sure if that's where it debuted, but I think that's the first place I ever read about it.
So that's what that thing was? It was a pearl. See, I thought,
You guys are good.
These Tuskens are like the Jawas. I thought it was like the egg thing.
No,
this
I
was
could
different.
see how you'd think that. But no, it's a pearl. And Jason, I actually emailed you a piece of artwork that Randy Martinez did for Star Wars Topps Galaxy card set from like 15 years ago.
Oh,
and
right.
He created an illustration of, there it is, a Tusken Raider holding up the pearl. It's a little bit smaller than the one we actually see in this episode. And over the defeated crate dragon. And so everyone on YouTube is seeing this now. But how about that? That's from, I think, 2004, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, if that's not prescient, that's crazy. Good for Randy.
Yeah. So, that's a beautiful piece. And so that element has been part of the Star Wars expanded universe for a long time. A few elements in this episode are from the expanded universe. The whole notion of Cobb Vanth comes from the novels. He was, it's a similar story, but he acquired he did not acquire the armor directly from the Jawas on board a sandcrawler, but he did acquire them, and he was the sheriff of a place called Freetown on Tatooine. And now that's become Mos, what do they call it? Mos Pelgo or something like that?
Yeah, Mos Pelgo.
Yeah. So, they're incorporating things that were only in the books before. And I also think they're incorporating elements from the Boba Fett movie that never happened. I think we're seeing things like Cobb Vanth. I believe those ideas were inserted into Star Wars books because they were supposed to be part of the cinematic universe. And we've been teased by it over the years, going back to 2014, when a Boba Fett film was actually in production, pre-production. But of course, that was scrapped. And I think there are a lot of elements from the research and development for that Boba Fett film that are coming into play in the Mandalorian series. And I think Cobb Vanth the sheriff of a shanty town in Tatooine. I think that was an element that was designed for the Boba Fett film, and now we're finally seeing it here in The Mandalorian.
Great details.
What they did in terms of what happened after the second Death Star exploded, I thought that was pretty organic in terms of having that local mafia take over there, local government. I thought that ran pretty smoothly because obviously that story had not been introduced at all, or those people at all.
The mining guild, that's who it was that took over there. And I love that you got to see a little bit of the HoloNet showing the Death Star 2 exploding. TV exists in a galaxy far, far away. They call it the HoloNet. Yeah, I love that. I thought that whole backstory with the flashback, I thought that was a lot of fun. Gave some great detail.
Here's some Crate Dragon art. I'm going to have to turn off my backdrop here for a second, so the artwork is going to be visible on the screen. So, excuse me for just a second there. Blip.
So that fossil in episode 4, that was a Crate Dragon.
Well, the skeleton.
The skeleton.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, see, this is from the Star Wars Illustrated universe, artwork by Ralph McQuarrie. And I don't know if you could see this on the screen.
Mm-hmm. We got
there it is. And you see those are, I think they're Tuskens, and they're battling the Crate Dragon. And that's Ralph McQuarrie's vision of the Crate Dragon. Is you can see the one on the show is much larger, but the head is very similar.
Yes, it is.
Reptilian head, very similar. Mm-hmm. Very similar. Are you guys seeing it okay? I can't see it.
No, you see it perfectly. No, see it perfectly. I did love Drew 130 here on the chat. Was the dragon spitting acid, or was it bile? I don't know. It was like stomach juices. It was definitely some sort of self-defense. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, now this is another Ralph McQuarrie illustration for
Tusken
the Illustrated Star Wars universe, and this features Tusken Raiders doing the sign language around a fire, telling the tales. We see a similar shot in the Mandalorian as well. A lot of people are like, "Is that the same Tusken Raider encampment that they took Shmi Skywalker to?" I tend to think no, simply for the fact that the Tuskens are nomads and they're always on the go. And I don't think the deserts, I don't think the desert lets people settle down for very long in tents. I think you have to find.
Oh, they're definitely nomadic and they're traveling all over the terrain there. We got another caller. This is a very special caller. This is a friend of ours on the show that has been on several times, and he's a little under the weather, and he's calling from the hospital. I got to tell you, nothing's going to keep this guy down. Our good friend John Pica, he had some thoughts he wanted to say. John, are you with us? Hello, Johnny.
I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can hear you loud and clear.
Well, and I've got you on speaker so that I can hear you. There's something wrong with my phone that I can't hear it.
That's all right. We're gonna give you a pass given your circumstances. Well, everybody here is wishing you a speedy recovery with your recovery from this nasty virus, and some of the aftermath has left you down and out. But boy, it didn't, as a Star Wars fan, a lifelong Star Wars fan, it didn't stop you from catching The Mandalorian and sending me some texts.
Heck no.
And you were saying to me that this was the most Lucasian episode of The Mandalorian ever, I think.
I think it was. The whole episode, I just kept thinking, wow, this has George's fingerprints all over it. And I told you in my text, I really think the whole episode was a love letter to George Lucas. There is so much. I mean, there was one screen wipe that they did with the circular screen coming up, the circular screen wipe. And I was just like, that is such a George Lucas thing to do right there.
Well, those transitions that they were doing, yeah.
Yeah, and just all the way around, expanding on just those little those little nuggets that George gave us in episode 4 and showing us the much broader universe. I mean, we saw more of the Tusken Raider culture in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but this was an expansion on all of that. And seeing the Tusken Raiders being willing to work with the people who live there.
Yeah.
And we learned so much. Like, when Mando says, yes, they are raiders. Yes, they are brutal. They are violent, but they keep their word.
Mm.
That was so strong to me. And to know that the Tusken Raiders can make allies and be friends was a surprise.
Yeah.
But it was a pleasant surprise. And how horrifying was that crate dragon?
No, it was.
I'm a huge. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Tremors, and so I got that whole Tremors vibe.
Oh yeah,
but,
sure. Yeah, with the creature under the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, but the immense size of that thing was, and it was horrifying.
Well, and what I loved about that,
you know why?
Yeah. Yeah, what I loved about that was it was almost like in the show they were trying to show us, just literally showing us how big this thing really was. I mean, they were like, it was almost like it was a message to the viewer. This is how big this thing is when the Tuskens have the little model as they're working on the attack plans with the little they looked like I thought they were like little chocolate chips representing the people.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, John, I know you were a big fan of. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I know you were a huge fan of the first season, as I think really most Star Wars fans were. The fact that this picks up pretty much right after we left off, maybe a little bit of time. We're not sure how much time there was. Did it seem like it missed any beats for you? Is it still the same show that you loved a year ago?
It absolutely is. Did not miss a beat at all for me. And if anything, I would say now that they've gotten the initial exposition of the first season out of the way, you really got this sense that John and Dave have more freedom to play. Mm. I really, with the humor of, I can't remember the character's name, the mechanic.
Yeah, Pelly.
Mos Espa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loved that character development and seeing those new things. And, now it feels like John and Dave are saying, okay, we got that first season out of the way. You diehard Star Wars fans, here's the winks and nods just for you. Like R5, how great was that?
Right.
And, after they defeated the crate dragon, seeing the Tusken Raiders picking the carcass clean, and it's in that same position that the one we saw in A New Hope, the skeleton in the desert.
Oh, yeah. And right.
Now you're
the rib cage and everything.
Well, that's how that thing got picked clean.
That's right. Hey, man, we're gonna jump to some more callers, but I want to take a moment and just let you know that we're thinking of you and wish you a speedy recovery. Okay, and take care of yourself.
Well, thank you. I'll leave you just by saying, COVID sucks.
Yes, it does, man. Yes, it does.
Hope you feel better, man.
All right, take care, Johnny.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Okay. The thing about Baby Yoda is fascinating for me because now I understand that they're filming this as as we're seeing some of the episodes from season 1, so there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect. But I thought, guys, the fact that Baby Yoda did not steal this episode, that they seem to be using a lot of restraint with him. He didn't come in and save the day. We got a lot of great reaction shots from him, which are precious and cute. And my kids just fell all over themselves every time they showed him. But it's not the Baby Yoda show. It's still the Mandalorian. And I think that's really important and shows a lot about, how seriously they're taking this. They're not turning it into he's not a mascot.
Yeah. For a second, I thought he was going to jump in on the Gamorreans there. I felt like there was one shot that kind of alluded to that, but I'm glad that he kind of took a little bit more of a back seat and focused on more of the main story there, of course.
Because, obviously Baby Yoda's story is the thing that's going to tie everything in this season together at the end of the day. So I don't think we have to worry about him being forgotten, but
no,
it is refreshing to know that they're not pandering to the Baby Yoda crowd, and I'm a proud member of the Baby Yoda crowd. Don't there's nothing wrong with the Baby Yoda crowd, but we don't need to be getting pandered to. We have to think about the big picture story here, and the show is called The Mandalorian, and we don't need to see Baby Yoda doing a song and dance routine or anything like that. So yes, restraint is the word, and it is appreciated.
Hey, we got to take this call. This is Stefan from Belgium. So, Stefan from Belgium, you're on the air with Rebel Force Radio and Dominic Pace. What's going on?
Hi, I'm really happy to get through. This is awesome.
Wow, it's awesome to hear from you.
Yeah, just watched the episode a few hours ago. Really stoked.
Now, I know that there was a slow rollout for Disney Plus with season 1, but in Europe. But now we're all in this together and experiencing it in real time together. So I'm sure that was a bit of a relief. Do you enjoy the fact that you don't have to pirate or bootleg it? You can actually see it as legitimately.
Oh man, yeah. You bet, yeah. I mean, we in Belgium, we had it even later than they had in the UK, so it got rolled out in the UK, Germany, and France, and a bunch of places, but Belgium had it even a few months later, so yeah, it was a long wait for season 1 to get season 1 legally, so now it's just great to be all in the same boat together and just being able to geek out with the whole world about it.
Well, having to wait so long, did you avoid spoilers? Did you listen to our show at all? Or did you just say, the heck with it, I'm going to be totally spoiled, and just when the show arrives, I'll be happy for it?
I was pretty much totally spoiled. I mean, I did my best for the first few months, but it didn't last, Yeah. I couldn't hold myself back after a while. But to be honest, I think that's really a testament to how good it was. I don't think it suffered that much, despite the fact I was spoiled. It was still amazing watching it unfold, even if I knew the major sort of story beats.
And what about this opening of season 2, chapter 9? As a Star Wars fan, what was it that really grabbed you the most?
I just really loved going back to the whole Tatooine setting and everything, and the fact that it just felt like to me, real Star Wars. I heard some people complaining online that, there weren't any big reveals in this episode, and I thought, no, this is the first episode. We don't want Ahsoka to show up immediately, Temuera Morrison at the end was plenty in terms of reveals. I was
what else do you want?
Have something. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. But just
a crate dragon
in
action
into this world, and a crate dragon. I was a big fan of the old Knights of the Old Republic games, and so I thought that certain things, like, for example, destroying it with explosion charges, and the fact that it was only vulnerable on the underside of its belly, came straight from that. So all of that stuff made me very happy.
Yeah, I love to see the expanded universe get brought into Star Wars and legitimized.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a big Stefan, hey, thanks for staying up late with us. Appreciate it. It's 2 a.m. there in Belgium, so he's definitely a dedicated Star Wars fan, or he suffers from, he can't sleep. Either way, we appreciate it. the thing that I keep coming back to, and you know, he mentioned it a little bit, which is these reveals. And there seems to be, and I'm seeing it already, a lot of pressure building by the fans because of all the rumors that we've been exposed to over the last year of this actor going to be in it and that actor going to be in it. And who's it? There was the rumor of Timothy the Olyphant. We got paid off on that. We got paid off on the Cobb Vanth rumors. We got paid off on the Boba Fett rumors. My goodness, Dominic, how do you think they navigate all of this expectation to have a big reveal every episode?
You just can't go wrong. I mean, the one thing I was thinking the whole time was also outside of the box of the Star Wars universe, just how John and Dave just have the talent to create an amazing story. I found myself getting frustrated with just sometimes with the other studios right now, to where everything becomes so trivial. But I just think that it's going to be a home run no matter what. They keep this tone, and I think you mentioned earlier in regards to how sometimes a formula in other films just don't have that balance. But they just know how to do it. I mean, you go to Elf, you look at Marvel and Disney, everything that John's done, not to mention Dave with the Clone Wars. I think it's just going to be a home run each time. I'm excited. I mean, I think we can probably bank on Ahsoka and Sabine. And then that's just going to open up the world for so many different storylines because you're bringing in all of the Clone Wars and, of course, some of Rebels there as well. So I think we've got a lot in store that's going to be really exciting. Couldn't come at a better time. Not to mention this LED screen, which we banked on. After season 1, the aerials are just gorgeous. I don't know what's real and what's fake. It's so amazing. I just can't wait to see the future of museums, amusement parks, and obviously the future of filmmaking, specifically, hopefully, helmed by Favreau and Filoni there.
Museums, I like the way you're thinking, how the technology is going to then spread out.
When I had the screen test, I cannot tell you, I don't care what IMAX film you've been to, you've never seen anything so real. You can get a little bit of it at Galaxy's Edge with Rise of the Resistance when you go into one of the rooms there and such. But I think this is going to lead out into amusement parks and museums so everyone can experience it not only on the screen, but also firsthand in person.
Sadiq online is in the online chat was making an observation about how when the Crate Dragon came into screen, the bars that give you the letterbox look on your screen, whatever your device you're looking at, he noticed that the bars then expanded. And it's a similar thing you see in IMAX films. When they open it up, it opens up the frame much wider. Yeah. So I did not notice that at first, but that's pretty interesting.
There was another person who commented who had a great reference to Moby Dick as well, which definitely makes some sense.
For sure. Hey, Dominic, when you were in the volume, did you ever experience any motion sickness or anything?
No. I think they had the capability, obviously, to move it. The oddly enough, it was at one of the most non-climactic pieces there, which is Werner Herzog's back office. Oh. And again, I was doing the screen test for Dave and John for Gekko, but I just could not take my eyes off it because, again, with perfect vision, being 25 feet away, it's just absolutely amazing. And like I said, I wish, hopefully we all hit the lotto and we can have 13 channels to literally bring us anywhere we want all over the world there. Especially during COVID. It would be like we can quarantine as long as we want with that thing.
Wow. You have concerts in your house.
Oh, man. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting to be in the front row of the Sands for a Rat Pack concert, virtual someday. Hey, you know what? I got to grab this one. This is Brian from Virginia, I believe. And I think Brian says he wants to play devil's advocate with us. So, Brian, the floor is yours. You're on with Rebel Force Radio and Dominic Pace.
Hey guys, it's actually Kirk from Richmond, Virginia. I did the Q&A with you, Jimmy Mack, last year. How's it going?
Well, you need to return your cell phone to Brian because apparently that's who owns it. I don't know.
He does that.
Yeah, well,
he
Kirk's
does
my
that.
middle
it's
name.
very confusing.
But,
yeah.
No. Brian's my first name. Kirk's my middle name. I go by Kirk. But anyway, devil's advocate here. I love the episode just like everyone else. I thought it was amazing. But did you feel like maybe you've seen this before? Chapter 4, the Bryce Dallas Howard episode, Sanctuary, I believe.
Yeah.
They used the village to attack the big bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Chapter 2, we have the Mudhorn in the cave. this chapter we have the crate dragon. As much as I loved it, I kind of wanted to see Grief Karga and Cara Dune, Moff Gideon, where are they at? Just playing devil's advocate, I loved it. But to me, it kind of felt like one of the middle chapters from last season, where it didn't really move the story along.
Did it feel like?
And I loved that. I thought it.
Was it like a greatest hits album for you? Like, hey, here's some fun moments from season 1 we'll bring back.
That's interesting, Jason. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Did you guys cross that? Did you think of that at all? It wasn't until afterwards.
It crossed my mind, but I thought that what it was doing, and I think I believe it was Mariana maybe that brought this up before. I thought that it was being used as a way to show some development in the Mandalorian's character, that he took this thing head on as opposed to perhaps stopping short of it. But I don't know, Jim, you said you felt the repetition there when you were watching it.
Maybe, I didn't use it as a reason to think negatively about the show. But when they had determined that they were going to fight the crate dragon with the Tuskens, and they were riding their speeders back to Mos Pelgo it's Mos Pelgo, right? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, Mos Pelgo.
When they were riding the speeder bikes back, I said, okay, here we go again. It's Magnificent Seven. It's the Seven Samurai. We're doing it again, just like in the village on Sargon. And but they didn't come back and train the villagers how to fight. It was more a story about collaborating with your enemy to fight a greater enemy. And I think the more important takeaways from this episode are the clues about Boba Fett and the notion that someone else would be wearing his armor, which is something we've talked about for years on Rebel Force Radio, about the possibility of Boba Fett imposters being out there. Now, granted, Cobb Vanth wasn't trying to assume the identity of Boba Fett. He just lucked into finding his armor. But in the past, we've heard stories about guys named Jodo Kast, who wore the Boba Fett armor and actually tried to cash in on Boba Fett's reputation as a bounty hunter by becoming a bounty hunter himself, and hoping that people would get confused. That wasn't quite the case here, but we do get solid confirmation that Boba Fett is alive. I don't think anyone is questioning whether or not that was Boba Fett at the end. I don't think anybody believes it was a random clone or Commander Cody or somebody. I think we're all pretty convinced that was Boba Fett. And I think that is going to open up a whole can of worms here in season 2. So for the people out there who just want Star Wars stories to fill up Wikipedia pages, then, maybe I suggest just stepping back a little and enjoying being back in the environment, being in new environments on places like Tatooine, seeing that planet for through a whole different perspective after all these years. Seeing the way they bring back Tatooine in The Mandalorian really, for me, underscores how unnecessary Jakku was in the sequel trilogy, and how badly I wish they just had Rey grow up on Tatooine. But that's another argument altogether. I like seeing other elements of these planets that we've known for 40 years and going outside of Mos Espa and Mos Eisley or Anchorhead and going into different villages, encountering crate dragons and Mandalorians and Weequay bartenders. I love it all. And they drink spatchka on Tatooine. It's not just a Sargon delicacy. Spatchka is galaxy-wide. So the spatchka fans out there, just rejoice.
All right, we got disconnected from our switchboard. Give us one moment, and we will pop it back on here. Sorry about that for those of you that are in the queue. It looks like it's picking up the queue back So
Thank you for calling Collins
one
Studios
moment.
host and
Everyone
call
quiet
screener
on the
line.
set.
Please enter your show number and press pound. That was an invalid show number.
Oh boy.
Please re-enter your show number,
try it
followed
again.
by the pound key. Enter your 6-digit PIN number. Welcome, host.
Oh,
You are
right.
now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Collins Studio
I
web
hope so.
interface.
So sorry to those of you. It looks like it's bringing you back on, but our devil's advocate that was calling, and I think he brought up some great points. You know, there's the potential of repeating yourself. I guess here's the thing, and Dominic and Jim, tell me if I'm being maybe a little bit too easy on John and Dave, but to me, this show feels, as much as it is a Star Wars show, but it feels as though it's a tribute to a certain type of formula of TV show. And where, you know, let's face it, whether it be the Incredible Hulk or the A-Team or $6 Million Man, there was a formula to those shows. And if that's in the back of their minds or even in the front of their minds, we might be seeing more of that. So I just a thought. I mean, Dominic, is there a case to be made for the fact that some of this is by design?
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I think the fact that, you know, you have these unique characters. Also, you know, they're adding it in with other things as well. You've got this Boba reveal. If I were to be devil's advocate on anything, people have asked me in regards to Gekko as far as what kind of voice. The only thing that kind of turned me off a little bit was seeing Weequay always came off to me when I was a kid as some kind of like sort of a Native American feel. To have seen him maybe in a different tongue, that was the only thing. But as far as the formula, you could say that about Lord of the Rings, and I mean it was genius as far as they encounter another adventure, they encounter another a villain in one way or another. I think they're spot on with that. Not to mention the amount of work that all of those visual effects people put in. Not to mention the performers. I didn't see anything wrong with that. It's just, again, we talked about it with the pod race last year or earlier this year, just in regards to sort of making things from the real world that I don't like to see. I'd like to see it completely alien as much as possible there.
So if they look like an alien, you kind of want that classic Star Wars subtitles with the
as many times as they can. You know, of course. I mean, they're you know, this is an international show, but as many times as they can, because for me it just seems foreign, which is a good thing, as opposed to feeling like, you know, even me, I've got a little bit of a New York, Chicago accent. I would never want Gekko to have that, you know?
Well, I'll tell you, it does add a bit more of an exotic quality to the characters when they're like Greedo speaking Huttese, and you have to read those subtitles. And George Lucas even addressed this back in 1977 when he was criticized for having the aliens speak in a different tongue, because he said he was told, well, you know, kids are going to see this movie and they might be not able to read, and you're pointing. He said, no, this is great, because then parents can bond with their children and they can read the subtitles to the kids during the film, and that's educational.
Yeah, if Jabba had an English voice, I think it would have totally taken away.
They had some Hutts speaking English in the Clone Wars series.
Yes, they did. Was that the Marlon Brando looking Hut?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then who could forget, you know, of course, Zero the Hutt, who sounded like Truman Capote.
Yeah. Boss Hog.
Hey, all right, let's go back to our phones. Thank you for hanging with us. We've got Robert from California. I hope it's not Robert, California, but Robert from California.
Another Office reference. That's two.
Hey, Jason. Robert, welcome to Rebel Force Radio. You're on with Jimmy, Jason, and Dominic Pace.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, how about that episode? Huh? It was pretty awesome.
I think so.
It was totally awesome. Yes.
Yeah, that moment right when you hear the crate dragon kind of scream that Obi-Wan does, that gave me chills, man. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, which Obi-Wan, though? That's what we were talking about.
No, it was the original.
The original, yes. That's Now, is that canonized? Is it re-canonized now, since it's in the Mandalorian?
I don't know.
Yeah,
was it ever uncanonized?
Did anybody else feel like the Boba Fett armor didn't really fit that guy very well?
Well,
Right.
It was on purpose.
I see. I felt that okay, now Jimmy and I were talking about this at the top of the show. I thought, and I was really more referring to the helmet. What it reminded me of is when my son Parker was about like 5 years old, and he put on a stormtrooper helmet, like a full size, and he kind of looked like a bobblehead, And I just thought that that's how it fit Timothy. But then Jim brought up the point that it was kind of tugging and pulling at a few spots around the middle. With
small
the plate, he thought it was too small.
Yeah.
What did you think, Robert?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You liked it?
I liked it. It fit. It definitely didn't fit him, but I think I kind of feel like they did that on purpose slightly. It's not his armor, and
Right.
as soon as he took off, as Mando pointed out that he had the armor, he takes off the helmet. You're like, all right, clearly he's not a Mandalorian. He just picked it up somewhere, so made sense. And then with Tamora Morrison showing up at the end, it's kind of clear that Boba's still around, and maybe he got out of the Sarlacc by taking off the outfit, and then it got spit out or something.
I think we're going to find out. So let's do an inventory. All the pieces that survived. We saw, of course, the helmet, the chest plate. We saw the pack and the arm gauntlets. Did any of the stuff on the knees or the legs, did that show up?
He had a single knee dart.
Okay.
He did have that knee pad.
Yeah. And, the thing that we haven't really mentioned, though, is the fact, by the way, thank you, Robert, very much for hanging with us. Appreciate it. That we did talk about is the religious or cultural insult that it is for a non-Mandalorian to have that armor. Now, we're not talking about bloodline here, guys. We're talking about a culture, an association, a coven, or whatever it is that they call it. But Mando spotted this guy right away, and like, there's nothing of the way about this guy. But he doesn't really know his story. But immediately he sees somebody who's wearing the Mandalorian armor, and he spots him, from a mile away, that he's not deserving of it. I thought that was kind of interesting. What was the tell?
It adds layers to the to the armor. If everyone had this is the way, in terms of their culture and belief, I think that might become a little stagnant. So I think Olyphant's story is only going to add an extra layer to that, make it three-dimensional.
Yeah, and do you guys think that we'll see, much like, we've seen the return of Queel, we've seen the return of Peli now, do you think that we've seen the last of Cobb Vanth in The Mandalorian?
Probably not. No.
Even just on a Hollywood sense, he's too big of a name to just have after one episode. I could see that one guy, oh God, forgive me, I forget his name, who when they saw Ming, who was the young kid who was the bounty hunter on Tatooine there last time.
Yeah, what was his name?
I can't remember his name, but I do remember he blasted the Star Wars sequels in the press afterwards, which I thought, oh boy, that may not have
not a good idea.
Yeah.
But, somebody like that can be in and out. But a name like Olyphant, I'm sure we haven't seen the last of him just from star status itself.
Hey, let's talk to Amanda. She's calling, I believe, from Kansas City, and wants to talk about the character progression. Amanda?
Actually, this is Amanda's husband, Ethan.
Get your own phone, Ethan.
Are we in trouble?
No, I have my own phone. It's in front of me.
Is Amanda at least there? Can we verify?
Sorry to bait and switch you.
That's all right.
Well, I just want to call. Sorry, go ahead. No, I just wanted to call and say that the episode, I was just blown away. Absolutely. Yeah. I sat and watched it with my wife, Mandy, and she was, pretty blown away as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like just the whole thing was just great. Like all the little callbacks and everything. And I enjoyed seeing how that Mando has kind of grown as a character since that first episode.
Yes.
There was the point where, you guys were just talking about, he walks in and on Cobb Vanth and he's wearing that armor. And at first, it's like, I need you to give me that or I'm going to kill you. But then, I was just kind of thinking, the first episode, this is a guy who is, I'm going to bring you in warm or I'm going to bring you in cold. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But he actually hears out Cobb Vanth and makes a deal instead of just killing him. And I think that's a pretty big step forward. And
yep. See, he's handling the anger management a little bit better these days.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I think that I don't know. I don't know if this would quite qualify as the hero's journey. I don't know that Mandalorian is on the hero's journey yet. I keep getting flashes of it, whether it be Queel, who certainly was the more wizened. But as we were talking earlier about Cobb Vanth, certainly the Mandalorian, one of the things we keep seeing is that he's accumulating these friends. Cara Dune, Grief Karga, Queel, of course, may he rest in peace. And now, Cobb Vanth, and it's almost like it's you get that the sense that's building to something somewhere at some point. These folks, the cavalry, might be called in at some point to rescue the Mandalorian. But certainly that's aided. That's your dog, right?
That's his
that's
dog.
my dog. Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
all right. No, that's all right.
I'm shushing him. I'm trying to shush him.
But they certainly aided by the fact that we're seeing this evolution in the Mandalorian character as he becomes. I think he's always been a man of honor. There's no question about that. And I think that we talked about this in our commentary about Baby Yoda is seeing the Mandalorian from a sort of a higher, maybe more spiritual place, and he is able to see the goodness, the core goodness, and in him. So it's almost like, well, like your dog there. If the dog likes the guy that's knocking on the door, chances are he's a decent person. That's kind of the role that Baby Yoda is playing a bit.
Yeah, but Mando is no softy. He's not involved in any kind of softy because he just asked Gore Koresh, who was left to hang there on that lamppost and be consumed by those dogs.
He was getting pretty softy with the widow last season. He was getting pretty softy there.
I don't know if softy is the right word, but I was saying
a Mandalorian has needs.
But it is interesting. Hey man, thanks for calling. Do appreciate it. Our best to Mandy there. But you're right, Jim. I mean, look, let's not whitewash this. The fact is that he is still a bounty hunter. He still does have some of those cold-blooded instincts. However, what we saw in the case of Gore Koresh was that was really a cheap shot that he took at the Mandalorian. Completely set him up. Mando's reaching out for some information. And then he wants to sit there and, play games with him. And Mando's like, I got no time for games. I got these.
I think that's the great thing about bounty hunters, though, is they can go either way, good or bad.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. To have a level of empathy, but also at the same time, when it's time to get down to business, it's time to get down to business. Almost like a mobster in many ways.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a fun aspect of playing a character like that, is because they can go either way. They're not on any. They're not a good guy. They're not a bad guy. They go by their own code.
Their own boss.
Their own boss. That's for sure. All right. Let's talk to. I believe this is. Chris from West Virginia. Chris, you're on with Rebel Force Radio, and Dominic Pace. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going great.
Awesome. First time caller. I'm very excited. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, we're excited to have you.
My buddy Anthony just got done watching the show, and we were looking forward to you guys' after show. My question is, for the future, since it's pretty much confirmed that it's Boba, how long do you think that he will be in the series, like in the actual series?
Well, it's a fair question, Jim. It's a major character. How much Boba canon are they looking to add in the Mandalorian? Do you think?
Maybe they'll put an absolute end to Boba canon in the Mandalorian. Maybe he'll only be around for a few episodes and they'll wipe him out. You never know. That's really hard to speculate on something like that. What do you think, Dominic?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say it might lead to his own spinoff. I think Disney is in need of a lot of content, and what better spinoff than to give Boba his own show? So that would be my prediction. But again, who knows? But I think it's such a gem of the Star Wars universe, and it pulls at the heartstrings of so many Star Wars generations. I don't think they're going to let him go that easy. He's such an amazing character.
Wow. Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought about. Could we be looking at maybe planting the seeds of a Boba series? Chris, what do you think? Do you would you like to see a Boba Fett series? You think there's enough stories to tell out there?
Oh, I think it would be an awesome idea. Me personally, I know I'm getting excited. I'm hoping that they make, from the rumors, they make a Ahsoka Tano show.
Yeah.
So any more live action we can get, I'm more excited about.
I don't know. I don't see a Boba Fett standalone show and a Mandalorian standalone show happening together.
Could be confusing.
It almost seems like a lot of the development that might have gone into a Boba Fett standalone film is being poured into the Mandalorian. You know, what's the most popular thing about Boba Fett? Is it the guy inside the armor, or is it the armor itself?
Right.
I tend to believe it's the armor itself.
It could be an option, though, to where they just have a great bow on 4 seasons as opposed to stringing one out, but then continuing on almost maybe the same theme, but through Boba in another 4 seasons. So it keeps its juice. It's not, strung out like, when I did Prison Break, the 4th season, it was like they had no idea where they were going anymore, but just more like a Breaking Bad with that beautiful arc. Maybe end out Baby Yoda's story and then continue on in something special with Boba, but the similar formula because it's working so well. Who knows?
No, we know the Kenobi series is going to be one and done, one season and in and out. So it's essentially just a mini series in itself. Yeah. So that could happen. You never know.
I mean, unless, as we know, money talks, and if the Kenobi miniseries increases the subscribers numbers, by 10% even, I think they'll be like, oh, we should squeeze in another one. We got time for one more call, maybe 2 more calls here before we wrap things up. Boy, we could go all night. And what would an episode of Mandalorian After Show be without our pal Eric from Phoenix? Eric, you've been waiting on hold for a long time, my friend. Welcome back to Rebel Force Radio.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course. We can't not take your call. So tell us, give us something that we have not talked about tonight. Hit us with something that you sit there and you say, gosh, they haven't hit on this yet.
Well, okay. So they haven't hit on this. Well, I'm not prepared to answer that one.
No, I didn't think so.
I think that, well, yeah, but I've got something you haven't talked about.
Okay, good.
How's that?
That's perfect.
So, yeah. So I was a huge fan of the video game Star Wars Galaxies, and it was the first massively multiplayer online role-playing game for Star Wars, and it launched in 2002.
I remember.
And in that game, you could do anything. And I'm telling you, this whole series is right out of Star Wars Galaxies. The whole series is right out of Star Wars Galaxies.
Okay.
And my wife and I both played, and tonight, when they were fighting the Kryat, which I'm sorry, it's not a crate to me. It will always be Kryat. I don't care what anybody says. It's Kryat.
Wait. Why is it
joke.
Cry It? No, why
I've
is it
heard that
Cry It?
before.
Was that from the
Because
radio dramas
when
or
we
something?
played Star Wars Galaxy,
Okay.
there was no pronunciation of it. But when we played it, that's what everybody called it. So in my mind, that's what it's called. And so you would go on these you'd go on these quests to find these things, and you would have to battle them just like they did tonight, not with explosives, but it would take a huge party. And my wife and I were joking how awesome it would be to have a pearl at the end. And we were half joking. And I am not kidding you. When they showed that pearl come out at the end, there were 4 of us in the living room, and you could have probably heard us down the street screaming because we were cheering so loud.
That's
because
great.
of the little nerd nod they did, which once again, I think it was in another video game for anybody that's listening or anybody that watched that played Galaxies. That was a huge part of that game. So that was something that was cool at the end.
Eric,
and overall,
Eric, did you notice that when the Tuskens pulled the pearl up out of the crate dragon, you saw the Mandalorian, he had a big hunk of meat on the back of his bike. He had a big hunk of crate dragon meat on the back of his bike. What's that for? Is he going to take that back to Pelimoto and they're going to have a cookout or something? I was like, I thought at first he had taken the pearl. Like they didn't know the pearl was in there and he had it. And at the end, he was going to rip it out of that chunk of meat. But then the Tusken held up the pearl. So I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah.
I think it was for Pelly. When I saw it, I thought it was for Pelly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just overall great episode. The end sold it for me. I got to be honest. In the beginning, I got a little bit of holiday special vibes with all the Tusken Raider grunting with no subtitles. Struggled just a little bit with that. And I liked it.
How the Wookiees carried the first 30 minutes of the holiday special, growling at each other.
Yeah, that's one where you just drink a lot because it's really hard to stomach that. But the Tuskens, I liked it better when the Mando quit using their language and he would do the signing, but he would say what he was doing. I thought that worked better. It would have been kind of cool to see the subtitles. But all in all, awesome. The end with Boba Fett. I mean, I was standing up the whole time cheering from that last point on. So anyway, great show, guys.
Thanks,
Dominic,
man.
sorry I missed you when you were in Phoenix. I couldn't get to you. It's about an hour drive for me. I couldn't get to see you, but hope you come back soon so I get a chance to meet you. Take care, guys.
Hopefully some very good news in about 6 months. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. All right, let's. We got time for one more. And how about what do we got here? It looks like Jesse, maybe from Nebraska. Let's see. Hello. Do we have Jesse? Jesse,
yes,
Amanda, or
Jesse
Lauren?
here.
I'm not sure which. There's 3 names on here.
Jesse's here. We got Jesse.
Hey, Jesse. What's going on tonight?
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Doing very well.
Just out in the tractor doing a little farming tonight. Listening to you guys after show. So, I asked Eric to talk about something that you haven't talked about all night. What do you think the chances are that Mandalorian knew that Boba Fett's armor was from Boba Fett and that something had happened to him, kind of know the legacy? And also the thought that I had was I thought he was going to let Cobb Vanth actually keep the armor at the end of the Battle of Crate Dragon, but he ended up running off with it.
What do you guys think of that? Is it possible Dominic, is it possible that he recognized Boba Fett's armor?
I think that's a great theory had we not seen the way that this show was written. But ultimately, I think that's a really good theory. It's just the way that this show went. I don't think that's the case, respectfully.
Not the case, says Dominic Pace. Jimmy Mack, what do you say?
I agree. I think he just looked at it as random Mandalorian armor in the possession of a non-Mandalorian, and that offended him, and he was going to kill him for the armor, but I don't think it had any sort of significance to him as being owned by a former bounty hunter named Boba Fett. I don't think Boba Fett is like a legend amongst Mandalorians, but he sure seems to be a legend amongst bounty hunters, and the Mandalorian is a bounty hunter after all.
Right,
so,
that's what I was
maybe
thinking.
their paths did cross over the years, and maybe he does recognize it as Boba Fett's, or at least understands there's a threat that Boba may want to reclaim his armor, and that could lead to a potential battle between the two. That's where I think we're heading. Is a showdown between the Mandalorian and Boba Fett. And I don't think we're going to have to wait all season for it. I think it's going to happen either next week or the week after, because we know the Mandalorian is going to leave Tatooine. So it's got to happen while he's still there. Yeah. And it could happen as soon as next week.
I'm actually leaning a little bit more towards Boba having a history with Baby Yoda, the child.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, wouldn't that be wild if we assume that Boba Fett is looking at the Mandalorian riding off on the speeder with his gear, and we think Boba Fett is concerned about the gear, but maybe Boba Fett has got his eyes on something else, and that's Baby Yoda. Ooh. So we'll see how that all shakes down. Yeah.
Wow. The mind continues to blow here on the Mandalorian After Show. What a great time this has been. Man, oh man. Big thanks to all of our callers this week. And huge thanks to our pal Dominic Pace. Dominic, thanks for hanging with us all week. It's what a pleasure it is to, as we've gotten to know you, of course, pleasure it is to have you here, but also the fact that you've been there, you've been on the set of The Mandalorian. You got to be, as a member, as an alum of that show, really proud tonight to see the season 2 premiere the way it has.
Absolutely. Just an amazing team, amazing cast and crew, and again, just wishing everybody all the best moving forward, and hopefully still fueled with not only from the cast but also from the crew, diehard Star Wars fans, because I know how much pride they would all take into this series there. So all the best to them.
And don't forget that you can check us out each and every week on Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com, and the flagship podcast. But we will be back next week with a look at Chapter 10. Now we know that they're not breaking. It's not Season 2, Episode 2. We're going right into Chapter 10. Jimmy Mack, as we do on these types of shows, I'd like to open the floor in case you have any final thoughts about Chapter 9 of Mandalorian Season 2.
Well, we got a lot of great, as everyone's been talking about, great callbacks to previous Star Wars elements and creatures and characters. I still can't get over all those close-up shots of the banthas, and seeing fully articulate banthas too, watching them move and snort. It's everything. I mean, see, it's just all those little things. Banthas have been part of the Star Wars universe since 1977, and they still are cool to look at, and in this format, surprising at all the interesting things they do. What a great creation George Lucas came up with, and the Krayt Dragon being another one. I love the classic beasts of Star Wars, and I feel the sequel trilogy outside of the Rathtars and that big snake in The Rise of Skywalker, you didn't really get your big creature features, and certainly are getting them here in The Mandalorian. And I'm happy to see that some of the loose threads about Boba Fett are going to be fully and firmly put to bed. A lot of people have been saying online, Boba Fett will never come back. He never survived the Sarlacc. Well, it sure looks like he did. And we're going to be seeing more of Boba Fett. Tim Morrison is Boba Fett. That's just great. So that's the first character we've seen from any of the films cross over into The Mandalorian. And I wonder how many more will cross over into The Mandalorian. Timothy Olyphant, great. Just great. Proving he can act in a Western no matter what the format is. Traditional like Deadwood, traditional and foul-mouthed like Deadwood, or spacey space opera like The Mandalorian. Great stuff. Also, we got the Scurriers from the episode 4 special edition. Paul Bateman pointed out to me online earlier today. Those were created by a guy named Ty Rubin back in the 90s, and here we are seeing them brought back to life in The Mandalorian. Can't wait to see where the season is going to go. May all of your Sarlacc pits be unoccupied. As we, I don't have an out for my final thoughts, do I?
You know what?
Mandalorian show.
I'm gonna.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say this is the way? I guess that's the easiest thing to say, right?
I think it's perfect. I've got apparently the kids were hard at work as I was down here doing the Mandalorian after show, and we'll throw this on here and see what you think. This is
a little Halloween treat.
This is the way, with a little pumpkin carving and
Baby Yoda.
And Baby Yoda, of course. But happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to this brand new and exciting season of Mandalorian. We are so excited to be back with the Mandalorian After Show. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Check it out, rebelforceradio.com. And remember...
Dominic's, what about Dominic's webpage?
Oh, Dominic, yes.
What is that webpage, Dominic?
Plug, please.
It's GekkoTheBountyHunter.com, and also Anonymous Killers. I star as Romero Scarinelli on Amazon right now. It's a great sociological thriller, perfect for the Halloween time, and all my best again to the Star Wars fan base. Thank you for getting me through this year.
Thank you, Dominic, and we really appreciate everything you do for small businesses and Star Wars fans across the country.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Indeed we do. All right, we'll see you next time for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
Force will be with you, always.